I set up this little camera so we could vlog later, but he just climbed up and said cheese. So
look at, you're on the camera.
So we turned it on. No. He's ready for a nap.
Okay. She thinks that's funny.
Is that funny?
It's been ongoing since Dakota came in October, and it's Valentine's Day week. About every day or two, we have the discussion, what do we do? And not what do we do with the babies, but what do we do with the 2 frozen babies that we still have? We were totally blessed to get 4 embryos when we were kind of at our final point. We were thinking that we were done. We had spent a ton of money, we had exhausted our options, and we met this couple that had some embryos and were willing to donate them to us, and then we adopted them. So that process was trying, but it gave us these 2 kids. Kenyon's taking a nap, so you don't see him, but with that came 2 other embryos that now have been really weighing on our heart.
Before we had these guys, they were just embryos, but now like they're babies, like potential babies sitting there.
Yeah.
Which is hard. And also IVF just takes a huge toll on you, or IUIs, or surrogacy, or adoption, or whatever route you go. I think being through infertility is being in the trenches. And I feel like if we had more money and time was not an option, we would have 10 babies.
I'll say that again because time is not an option. If it wasn't. We are running with an option. Yeah, we don't have like indefinite time to make up our minds. I think you say if money was not an... If money and time were not an option, we don't have forever to think about it. If we were 10 years younger, okay, it would be different, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact of like, we're approaching 35, at 35 you become less fertile, your
Advanced
body's,
maternal age on the charts.
yeah. As well as like trying to come up with funds to cover that cost while you're trying to plan for college and retirement and build a little nest egg and pay off your cars and your houses. We only have one house.
We've moved too many times,
Yeah,
but we
we've
currently
had
have
many
one
houses.
house.
But all of those things, and then being able to, like say, have a little nest egg in case something happens.
All the responsible things to do, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make the decision any easier. I've been reading a lot about it, about not wanting to have any regrets, and how do you decide, and what's the right choice, and making pros and cons lists. But people feel like this about after they've had their 4th kid, or after they've had their 1st kid, or sometimes that feeling never goes away. But I know that we have to be grateful for these 2 kids, and there was a very real possibility not that long ago that we wouldn't be able to have them. So
Yeah, I mean, within our near recent past, it was, okay, we've exhausted all our efforts and there's nothing else out there for us. And then we were lucky enough to be able to find these embryos and have these 2 kids. And Brandy's pregnancies haven't been just a walk in the park either. I went through a brain surgery in 2013, and I always said that Brandy lived through it and I was medicated through it. But I think the same thing's true for pregnancy. Like, you kind of go through like a adrenaline rush and medicine and everything else, and it makes it easy to forget how hard it was. But the partner is the one that has to really live through. It's scary. You know, having our blood pressure so high that they were worried about seizures for the first time with Canyon, and then rising blood pressure with Dakota, and then the cord was wrapped around Dakota's neck, and I mean, we did everything we could to not let Brandy know that so that she would stay calm, but I was right there watching, and it was scary. And I didn't want anything. I couldn't do this without her. I love her so much. She's my rock and my partner and everything, and I love you. And I'm not saying that that's the reason we're not going to continue on, but a conglomerate of all of these things has kind of gotten us to a point where we feel like we have to make a decision.
well, unfortunately we do. Our situation with the embryos is if we don't use them within 10 years of, when we were gifted the embryos that created these babies, then we give them back to the people who donated to us. And that seems like an easy decision. But we were donated 4 embryos. We used 2 of the highest grade. We have 2 not, as great grade remaining, which a baby and I guess one of their siblings, genetic siblings, was born from a not great quality embryo, so it's possible. But our family that donated to us, sorry this is long, it's so confusing, has said, well, we're willing to swap you 2 embryos for 2 embryos because we still have a bunch of the high grade embryos. I think they have like 6 or so left. But if not, we are looking to donate them or decide what we're going to do with all of these remaining embryos among us 2 families. So that's another hard question. We could say we're going to keep the 2 we have, but we might not try for a couple years. And then what if we try and it doesn't work and they've given away the better quality embryos? Or we go through the legal processes and all that stuff to swap these embryos for the chance that just in case, which we might decide we don't want a 3rd baby. So time kind of is of the essence somewhat, as well as the money that we're spending to store the embryos every month and the money that the other family's spending to store their embryos every month. So there's that.
So we've also had the discussion of like, could we give life to somebody else who's been struggling like we did, and what would that look like, and maybe helping the family that donated them to us find a new couple. But then it's also, I hate to say it, selfish, but you kind of feel like they're your babies. Do you really want to see somebody else raising your babies? And they're not yours, but they feel that way, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you kind of feel like you're responsible for them on
Yeah.
somewhat. It's kind of like being, I don't know. I don't know what it's like being, I can't put myself in other people's shoes, but the other options that we have, I guess we could talk about, would be just letting them thaw and do nothing with them, which feels sad and not right, but it's a possibility. And then there's the option of donating them back to science, which I think is a viable option for us because people need to learn, right? Like, if it wasn't for the science to be trained and all this, we wouldn't even have this option. IVF wouldn't even be a thing. Like, they have to have embryos to use, and yeah.
Looking at her.
I know, me too. I guess during our reciprocal cycle, because before we were donated embryos, we went through 2 IVF cycles with her eggs that didn't end up working, and we let students come in and be witness to all of that. But then after they didn't work, we were just like, maybe it's just too much pressure. Like, the less people in the room and the less anxiety for me, the better the chances maybe. And so I actually said no to having a medical student. You have to check on the list. Would it be okay if an intern comes in and views the procedure? And I said no on the last one. And I kind of felt guilty about that because I just did. So maybe that would be a way to kind of give back to science. And then there's another really option that's like out there, but you have to talk about it because it's an option. Would be something I just found out about like yesterday in my research, called a compassion transfer. Do you know enough about it to explain it? Just
You
from what I told her.
basically would go through your fertility cycle, figure out about when you would ovulate, and then you would wait a couple days, confirm you're not pregnant, and then transfer them so you have a very limited chance of getting pregnant, and then kind of just let them
reabsorb and, so you feel like maybe you gave them a chance, but knowing that you were not in a good time in your cycle for a pregnancy to occur. Like, it was pretty sure that it wouldn't occur. So that's just a strange thing that I just read about yesterday, so I thought I'd just share that.
And I feel like maybe that's not right for us, but I do think it's interesting for this group of people that are watching our vlog to know about, because I think it's
I didn't know
important.
anything about it until yesterday.
Yeah. It's important to know all of your options and to be able to explore all of your options, even if they're not right for you.
Yeah. So another option, I think it would be awesome to find a gay couple, a male gay couple, to donate them to, because they also have to foot the cost of a surrogate, plus find embryos or donors on both sides for male and female, sperm and egg, or at least an egg donor. So that's another thing that I think would be really cool. But then again, they'll have full genetic siblings, maybe living in Florida or somewhere completely across the country from us. And I think it's kind of cool that right now we're planning vacations with their other siblings, and you can't really call them siblings. They're not.
They're dibblings.
Dibblings, full genetic donor siblings.
Dibblings.
They share 100% genes with these babies, since we're not genetically related to them and the other parents are not genetically related. All the kids have that commonality. So I think that's so cool, and I think it'd be weird to have one or two that were in a different country or different.
Yeah, we would definitely want to try
world.
to keep it close. I mean, if we could find somebody in Portland or Seattle, I think that would be really cool, so that we could hopefully stay in contact and let the kids kind of know each other, and eventually they're going to know that these are their siblings, and she likes that idea, see? So there you go. So the decision's been made, and we're, I think, kind of in mourning and a little bit of a grief period.
It's sad.
It's definitely sad. If money was no object, we would absolutely try again and try again and try again, but
I'd really like to continue staying at home with these babies and doing the things that I've envisioned as being a stay-at-home mom, being able to go on a field trip with the school, or I don't know, we made a big decision when we made a decision for me to stay at home, and I feel like it would be taking a step backwards to go back to work and find care for them.
Very important Brandy stays home. She's doing a great job being mama and taking care of these kids and teaching them and doing preschool stuff with them. That's a huge part of our decision too, is that she stays home and that we don't put them in daycare. That's going to be the future for us until she decides she wants to do something different. But until then, she's going to be raising these kids, taking care of them the best she can, and I'll be doing my best to provide financially while she provides everything else. She takes such good care of us. You can tell just by this baby looking at her. I mean, she loves this baby, and this baby loves her. So that's the best thing that we can do. And we just wanted to share. We shared a lot along our journey, and this has been one that's really been weighing on us. And I think it's important to put it out there so that everybody kind of knows the struggle that it's taken to get to this decision. She's asked me a couple of times, like a couple hundred.
What?
So don't you want to have a baby? And I'm like, no.
Oh, do you want to carry a baby?
If she wants to have it, if I said no means no.
No.
Oh my
I put up my words. No means no. Just kidding.
It's so true though. I'm like, are you sure? Last chance, okay? Last chance.
I'm sure. I'm definitely sure.
But I think for us, we're like about the no regrets life, but we're also about, we don't really want to pay embryo storage for 10 years. That's a really huge expense. It's like not something to just throw money at.
$500 a year, that's being spent on something that could be better suited for somebody else and not for us if we're not going to use them. We've been still undecided, so it's not been a wasted cost in our opinion, but it is something moving forward that we would like to discuss with the family that donated them to us, and then figure out what we're going to do as far as donating them out or giving them back or how that works. But
because we keep going with that waffling, like, what if our insurance covers it in 2 years and we've given them away? But I mean, we'll still be 2 years older, and we'll still have to care for them and raise them and feed them and clothe them and house them and all that stuff. But I got a minivan and I'm supposed to fill it up.
That's what the cousins are for.
That's what the cousins are for. Yeah, we can actually afford to go on some field trips and vacations, and it's sad to box up like your maternity clothes and sell all your baby stuff. I think it's just means we're getting older, and that part is sad.
We were listening to that song the other day. We ain't never getting older.
Oh,
She's like, it's a lie.
It's all a lie.
The end of diapers is in sight now. I mean, trying to think on the positive side of things, like, right? We can shed some maternity clothes, shed some baby boppies and things like that.
The first item up for sale in about 3 months is this nice Carter's Zoo Print
Yay!
sleeper. Just kidding.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate you listening to us blab on. If you've made it this long, stay tuned for more to come on what we're going to do with the remaining embryos. Remember, stay positive and good things will happen.
Thank you.